Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Mania 4 Key World Cup 2023. There have been 32 teams that have entered the bracket stage, and we are now down to the final three. Who will be our champion at the end of the weekend? We have some scores to settle, and we're going to start it off with the loser bracket grand finals. It is going to be South Korea going up against Indonesia for a shot against the United States for that top spot. As always, my name is Sparky, and I am joined in the commentary booth by none other than Eliminate. Eliminate, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and I just want to talk about some of these past matches we've seen from both of these teams. We have seen a miraculous run from Indonesia here, obviously having some really crazy scores on, all areas. Let's not to say the least. And South Korea as well, being, I believe, they came in at seed 1 this year, and now in the losers bracket, and they have had some great scores, and I really hope this match is going to be a very close one, considering it is grand finals in the loser bracket. We should hopefully see some back and forward, though saying that, I do believe Indonesia is missing one of their players.
Yeah, they're going to be short. I believe Bad HD player not going to be available for this match. Hopefully everything's all right with them, and hopefully the rest of this Indonesian roster can really step up to the plate and deliver the performance of a lifetime. They have already exceeded all expectations from years prior, making it all the way to the podium places for the first time in their history. Hopefully they can continue on, see if they can stand toe-to-toe against this South Korean roster, the defending 4 Key World Cup champions, and see if they can cause one of the biggest upsets in this tournament, at least in terms of historical performances.
Yeah, speaking more about the seedings, seed 1 from South Korea. If Indonesia do manage to pull this one off, that would be a great way to guarantee that podium spot. That would be a crazy run for Indonesia this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually did receive word. Bad HD player is actually in this lobby. So forget what we said earlier. Indonesia having their full complement of players. So game on if you are Indonesia. Everything is back on the table. One of the basically best performers for Indonesia being available is going to help their chances massively against this South Korean roster that has looked nigh unstoppable. I think the only real hurdle they've had to face is the United States, and they gave them a pretty good run for their money. 7-4 is a very good scoreline to go down into the losers bracket on, especially against a roster as stacked as that United States roster.
The overall rank for last round's rankings was Indonesia seed 2 and South Korea seed 3, so it's going to be very close, and I do expect Indonesia to play more into the race side of things here, because they have proven themselves to be a very strong race team, and South Korea being the opposite and maybe playing more into the LNs, and even SV has been really good for them. So these rolls coming out, South Korea will win that roll with 75 versus Indonesia's 21.
Yeah, it looks like the first protect will go over the way of South Korea. And I think you bring up a very good point. South Korea has pivoted a little bit in terms of their overall pick strategy. Hovering in that LN hybrid side of the pool, have actually dived down into the SVs as well. And sure enough, the protect going to be LN3 for this match. Indonesia now up to protect next. And I imagine based on past performances, one of these rice charts is going to get protected. Maybe something like rice 2 or rice 3. They have tended to linger in those more standard rice picks, but the tech is also available.
As you said, rice 3 does get protected from Indonesia, so this is nothing not to be expected. And on the ban side of things, I wouldn't be surprised if Indonesia maybe even ban an SV. Judging by their last round's SV results, was quite a bit far behind South Korea, but SV for the most part is just, practice makes perfect. So if Indonesia have put in the practice, then shouldn't need to ban it, and LN would be a safe one, but they do in the end choose to go for SV2.
Yeah, that's unsurprising. You definitely want to pinch off that SV pool, especially if you feel like your opponents, you can practice, but if your opponents are better at practicing those picks, they become a bit of an issue overall. So getting rid of that as well. And it looks like SV1 also going to be gotten rid of. So a handshake between the two countries. No SV will be played in this match. We're gonna duke it out on the standard map pool, Rice, Hybrid, and LNs. And the first pick I'm gonna go to South Korea.
Yeah, having both SV maps, I can't say I'm not surprised, but there is a little bit there that I am a bit curious about. South Korea banning SV, their last round results are heavily in their favor, so maybe just not super comfortable on SV1. Obviously quite a bit different when you compare the SVs from this round to last round, and especially SV1 to SV2s. And South Korea not wasting any time, getting straight into LN2, hoping to take their very first point.
Yeah, a decent way to get themselves off on the right foot. And it'll be very interesting to see who comes in for both of these rosters. There's definitely a step up being taken when you get from this finals map pool from last weekend to this grand finals pool. It is definitely quite a bit of a jump. And even going into finals last weekend, we were seeing some players hit their physicality ceiling, see if they can exceed their expectations and perform above what they're expecting. And LN2 is a pretty decent shout for a good first pick for South Korea. Looks like it's going to be Vanilla Latte, Gaisel, and YZ1155. And right now we're just waiting for Indonesia to sort out their final three, Albert, Nisha, Labyrinth, and probably a bad HD player coming in. Probably just checking something real quick, and sure enough, they come right back in.
Now, although South Korea have been pretty dominant on the LN map so far, I mean, the score gap, it is not that much on some of these maps, and the saying always goes, a miss can ruin everything. And a miss can be worth so much, and even on these LN maps where it's so easy to just drop so many notes in such a short space of time. So really, anyone's game, South Korea will need to really show off their dominance a bit more if they want to be super confident with these picks, and I'm sure they are, but time will tell, and Indonesia can maybe pull something out the hat here.
Absolutely. And with that being said, the MP Start command comes out. We're going to get into this first map of this grand finals weekend. Good luck to all players involved. Let's hope we're in for quite the show.
Map is only 2 minutes long. It's not one of the longest maps you would see, but so far all players are holding pretty comfortable accuracy. It's only the start of the map, we're not even at the bulk of it yet. Nisha does find an early miss. That'll be quite detrimental and give the early score lead to South Korea. That's not what you'd like to see if you're in for Indonesia. It's now almost 6,000 points already right off the bat.
Yeah, currently climbing in terms of score lead for South Korea, extending it to about 8,000. Everybody seems to have settled in already. 5 FCs still left on the table, and Nisha doing very well to recover their combo as well, beginning to climb up in terms of accuracy, but falling a little bit behind in comparison to their South Korean counterparts. That being said, they are still within striking distance if South Korea isn't able to keep this clean, but Albert is the next one to fall on the side of Indonesia, not answered back, and that's going to help extend the score lead for South Korea. But a trade between Vanilla Latte and Nisha Labyrinth going into the back half of the chart now.
These misses were not very good for Indonesia, but Vanilla finding that trade back and a few more after that can give Indonesia the chance again. It was an 8,000 point lead, and it's still an 8,000 point lead. It's pretty consistent for the South Korean side, and do see a few act drops from Indonesia. Albert finds that miss towards the end, but so does YZ. Traded back and forward, and the score difference is just slowly going in South Korea's favor. Indonesia will need to try hold their combos for the rest of this point on if they want to try and get that score back. But it's still ever so slightly going back into South Korea's favor constantly. Albert does find yet another miss.
Yeah, as we get into one of the more dense sections of this chart, last third still left to go. Nisha finds another drop going into the last quarter. And the bulk of the South Korean lead is really just hinging on this performance from Gaisel. Highest accuracy in this lobby by some considerable margin. And despite Bad HD player's best efforts holding on to the singular FC on the side of Indonesia, it is being cancelled out, but Gazel finds the drop going into the last lever, but I don't think there's enough time. This lead is practically insurmountable at this point from the side of South Korea. They have done just enough to build up this lead, and despite a couple of drops there at the end, they take their first point by a margin of 40,000 points to make it 1-0.
There are so many misses towards the end of the map there, and Bad HD player with the only FC, I believe, in the entire lobby. Very, very good score, and that got really chaotic towards the end, but the score lead was just too much in South Korea's favor that Indonesia didn't really have much of a chance unless they comboed past the halfway mark, but very, very good scores in this lobby. You can already see.
Yeah, for sure. If Indonesia were just able to keep that run going just a little bit longer, hold on to some of that combo just a little bit longer, maybe that scoreline is going to look a little bit deceptive, because that could have gone either way, especially if South Korea had those misses come a little bit sooner.
Now back into Indonesia's pick, and this first pick, I mean everything for them, and wouldn't be surprised to see a Rice map. Here we go, Rice 1 is chosen by Indonesia, and I don't really know what other choices they would have, and Rice seems to be their dominant option to pick, and I think it's by a sizable margin when we compare it from LN to Rice and hybrids as well. As Indonesia can prove themselves super strong on these Rice maps, and I believe we can see that just like we saw in the LNs for South Korea.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like they're probably going to run the gamut of the more straightforward Rice charts, probably Rice 1, Rice 2, Rice 3, just back to back to back for their first couple of picks, because of the fact that they're so comfortable on speed picks, on jump stream picks, and they seem to have infinite amounts of stamina when it comes to it as well. So a pretty clear path for both of these teams to start this match off. It'll be very interesting to see how it evolves as we get further into this match, especially if Indonesia can hold their own on their own picks, because once those breakpoints start going over, then the doubt starts to creep in.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at last round, South Korea may have just had a few unlucky runs, but you can't really afford to have that when you're at this stage in the tournament, and they would really need to pull this one off if they want to try to take a breakpoint against Indonesia, and that is quite a tough ask when you're looking at these players on, I mean, even both teams, you have some powerhouse players here, so just expecting or wanting a choke is really hard to ask for, and only a minute and a half long map. It's a very short map, so consistency shouldn't be the deciding factor here, but rather physicality and how strong these players are.
Yeah, we start to enter the territory of, do you have the raw physicality to handle an extended amount of push? A minute and a half at this BPM is incredibly taxing, and I imagine South Korea maybe seeing if there's going to be a last-second substitution. Yonho going to check in for YZ. Unsurprising, they showed off what they were made of last weekend, putting up some incredible performances on some of these Rice charts. Going to be backed up by Gazel and Vanilla Latte. No substitutions on the side of Indonesia. Unsurprising, this was their primary Rice-oriented roster for much of this tournament. So see if they can hang on and see how this goes. Some final checks going on in the lobby, and we'll be getting into it. The second map of this best of 13, Indonesia's first pick. See if they can maintain parity or if South Korea can get that first breakpoint in this match.
Best of 13 indeed, and this is only the second pick, so there's still a lot to go, and we've yet to see Indonesia play on their maps, and this is the first time we get to see it, and all teams off to a great start. It's tied neck and neck, all players holding the same accuracy. It's really anyone's game at this moment, but it's only the very intro. It's very straightforward. Bad HD player finds those drops. Even more misses. That is really not good for Indonesia. That's really early on, and like we seen in the last map, that's giving the early lead to South Korea, and that can really cost them, but Gazel does find the trade of return and will give some of the points back over to Indonesia.
Yeah, it was a pretty significant accuracy drops from both Bad HD player and Gazel, hovering in that low 99% mark, and Gazel finding another drop on the transition, traded back by Nisha Labyrinth this go around, and Bad HD player to boot, and that helps restore this cushion for South Korea, begins to extend it to about 11,000 points. A little bit dicey through that first half. Got to keep the second half clean. It's still anybody's game going into the back half now. It's on the back of Yongho and Vanilla Latte to hold their own against Albert. And basically this duo of Bad HD player and Nisha Labyrinth.
Yeah, so it's a very short map, and we're already 3/4 of the way through, and South Korea is holding this comfortable lead, but any misses right now can really sway back over to Indonesia. I mean, Indonesia's slowly taking it back, but Bad HD player and Nisha both find misses. Gaesol tries to trade it back, but it's now 30,000 point lead for South Korea. I don't know if Indonesia can even take it back at this point. This lead is massive, and there's really not long left on the map now, only a few seconds, and South Korea will take the first breakpoint off the map on Indonesia's pick.
Yeah, very strong performances there. Vanilla Latte really showing up on that chart despite Yonho having the MVP performance. Albert as well with the FC actually taking the honors from them with that very clean run. 985k, a very good score, but just unfortunate to not have the support to see it through to the end. South Korea, the beneficiaries of it, to make it 2-0 now. It is going to be pretty close. It's going to come down to if Indonesia can keep these runs clean going forward. The first breakpoint isn't the most detrimental, but it can definitely set the tone for the rest of the match as South Korea wastes no time. They're going to go for LN1 now.
Yeah, and the 200 counts when all the players are very, very matched. That entire map was just down to the misses from both sides, and unfortunately, Indonesia just had a few more misses and a few unlucky drops that really cost them that point, and that's all it comes down to. Super close, and now, like you said, South Korea wasting no time going into LN1 very fast indeed, but a very long map, almost 4 minutes long.
Yeah, one of the longer picks in this pool, and pretty relentless gauntlet to play through. It changes a little bit from a test of physical stamina to a test of mental stamina because of the fact that you have to juggle all the releases found in this chart. It can get a little bit taxing, and even if you are at the top of your game, just letting your fingers go a little too soon to try and keep up with the dense patterning can cost you so much accuracy, if not a couple of misses for the road. But everybody getting back into position. YZ checks back in for South Korea, and Indonesia staying firm with this 3-man roster. Bad HD player Nisha Labyrinth and Albert looking to see it through here on LN1 against South Korea.
Indonesia are really going to need to up their game here, I believe. If we see a result like last LN, that's really not going to look too good for them. And you can see, I believe that's not a client miss from Gaesol, and that's going to give almost an early advantage to Indonesia, but not quite. And Bad HD player does find that early miss yet again. It's not uncommon, but YZ does trade it back, and the score lead is only 1,000 in South Korea. It's barely anything at this point. Those early misses really do make me curious for what we're about to see in this map. It's almost 4 minutes long. We've still got so much left to go, and so many potential misses can come around.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe the players just getting their feet wet with the patternings that are to come, just kind of settling in. It's very easy to get those early nerves and find those misses very early on, but because of the fact that they were early on, recovering from them is very easy as Albert finds the drop into the transition into the second quarter of this chart. We are still very early days in this chart, but it's 7,000 points in favor of South Korea at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, even with the misses, Bad HD player does find that miss yet again, but even with these misses, South Korea are slowly gaining the point difference based on accuracy alone, and Gaesol does find that miss, can give a little bit of the score back to Indonesia, but there still need to be a lot more from South Korea if Indonesia even want to take the lead at this point. But only a third of the way through the map, Bad HD player does find another miss, and that's really not what we'd like to see. More misses coming out, and it's now almost 17,000 point lead. Nisha and Albert, that's all 3 misses from Indonesia here, and South Korea are looking very strong. Vanilla and YZ now past 3,000 combo, and Gaesol does find that miss as well, but it really will not mean anything at this point when the score lead is this high.
Yeah, for sure. It's really being buoyed by the fact that both YZ and Vanilla are holding on to very good accuracy. 99.4s Gaesol not too far behind, only a couple hundreds. 99.4s across the board for South Korea. Meanwhile, Indonesia 3/10 behind as a team. in comparison to their South Korean counterparts, and that's helping account for a lot of this lead, despite the fact that the trades start going back and forth once again. Bad HD player and Nisha Labyrinth just not having the best of times at the moment. Gaysol as well joining them in the combo resets, but Albert, YZ, and Vanilla Latte really holding on to the bulk of the combo going into the last third of this chart.
What are these combos from these players? Oh my
Ridiculous.
god. Ridiculous. Actually crazy. And 42,000 point lead for South Korea. I mean, what would you expect when you have these two players going absolute god mode right now? Indonesia do find some more breaks, and well, YZ finds a miss. That's going to be the first step in the right direction if Indonesia want to take this back. They still got around a minute left of the map, and they need to try to stay consistent for as long as they can. But Nisha and Albert both find misses there. Really need to hold on for as long as they can, but 50,000 point lead, you really need to hope that something goes wrong on South Korea's side here if Indonesia want to take this point lead back, but doesn't seem likely. South Korea are looking very strong on the back of Vanilla Latte's almost 7,000 combo.
Yeah, still holding on to the FC for South Korea, the only one left in this lobby, and it is putting in a boatload of work at the moment, extending this lead to about 50,000 points despite Indonesia's best efforts. It just feels like with every section that passes, the accuracy just starts chipping away ever so slightly, going down a 10th here, a 10th there, and they're just not able to keep up with this consistency that South Korea has had. Because sure, South Korea has had their misses coming through, but they're able to keep it so clean and able to build right back up where they left off, that once they build back that combo, they're able to take back the points that they have lost, as there's another combo reset for Bad HD player Nisha Labyrinth, and as the chart comes to an end, South Korea will take it to make it 3-0.
Vanilla Latte's FC, what is that score? That is an incredible score, and YZ really close behind as well. South Korea really proving themselves dominant on these LN charts. Those are some crazy scores on the South Korean side as well. Gaysol with the 2 miss. This is really, you can't really match this.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely just a level above right now from South Korea, just really feeling it and able to bring it to a forefront despite Indonesia's best efforts. A very consistent team run overall, everybody scoring in the 950Ks. And with this chart being as difficult as it is, you'd imagine that be more of the mean for everybody, but South Korea proving why they are currently the defending champions and putting up some ridiculous scores as we have come to expect from them, as it is now Indonesia's next pick. I imagine Rice 2 or Rice 3 will come out. It's a matter of if they want to go for the Protect, they opt not to. It's going to be Rice 2.
Both teams choosing to save their Protects for a later time. I believe South Korea also protected LN3, so I guess we've yet to see the bulk of it, and Indonesia will need to really try their best to take this point, and then on top of that try to take a break point back from South Korea if they really want to get back into this match, which is definitely possible considering Indonesia's incredible scores in the past few rounds, but it's just really hard to match some of these scores that South Korea are even able to get. It's ridiculous, but this map 2 minutes long, and if Indonesia can prove themselves consistent, then they can really take their first point of this match.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a matter of if they can keep these runs, these misses, to an absolute minimum, because South Korea are proving that they can put out some FCs on some of these charts, and it does raise the bar of expectation for the other team, as we see Yeonho check back in for South Korea, just round out this more Rice-oriented roster. YZ actually staying in place of Vanilla Latte. Going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. This is about 285 BPM jump stream. It is incredibly fast, but incredibly short. The margin for error is very slim as we get on into it.
I really hope this point will be a lot closer than the ones we've seen before. We just need to not see some early misses, which we've seen every single point so far. Players need to be a bit more consistent if they want to take this first point for Indonesia, which is definitely very viable considering its jump stream, but like you said, very fast at that 285 BPM and getting right into it, and all players holding very well for the intro and managing to maintain that accuracy and combo at that. Indonesia with a very slight lead, now up to the 4,000. I believe there's an accuracy drop from the South Korea side there.
Yeah, pretty significant accuracy drop. Gaesol dropping down into that mid 99% range. Gonna give Indonesia a tiny bit of a cushion to work with. I think the only one they've had so far this match, outside of maybe some stray swings here and there. As we make our way into the second third of the chart, all 6 players holding steady, just getting their bearings, but bad HD player and Nisha finding drops almost back-to-back. Nisha with the second one for the road, and it does swing the lead back in favor of South Korea. No answers back from their side. All 3 of their SCs still going strong, and it is to the tune of about 8,000 points, that swing.
I really not like to see that, and that's quite the huge lead to give it to South Korea, like, in just an instant. Though saying that, YZ does find that miss and trade it back, and the accuracy does drop from South Korea. Now the lead is back into Indonesia's favor, where all players are above the 400 combo cap, and Gaesol finds the miss as well, but Nisha does trade it back, and this is very close getting into the last quarter of the map. This could really be anyone's game, but Bad HD player does find that miss as well, but Gaesol does trade it yet again. We're seeing a lot of trades in this match so far, and the score lead is just flicking back and forward. Indonesia with a slight lead now. Albert and Yonho both holding the FC, but Albert does find that drop, and that's going to be very detrimental.
And that was a significant accuracy drop from Albert. They were basically the linchpin for Indonesia, holding on to the highest accuracy for their country, but that was a pretty significant drop. Bad HD player takes the reins, but we're still not done. We're going to the last level of the chart. There's still trades going back and forth between these players, but Bad HD player, the next one to drop. It is now starting to go in favor of South Korea for the moment. YZ does find the drop, but it is up to Yonho to hold on to the staggering performance. 99.7 for them. Albert and Bad HD player find the drop, and as the chart comes to an end, South Korea holds on against Indonesia to make it 4-0, taking yet another breakpoint from the Indonesians. What is that score from Yonho?
Yeah, crazy score from them, and just judging by these 200 counts, I would like to repeat this, that it's literally very close. It's just dependent on these misses that these teams are getting that really sways the lead back and forth. That was very close right up until the very end there when South Korea took that by a very small margin. And this is just the stuff you would like to see in these kind of matches. Makes it very tense, but Indonesia really needed to hold what they could there for their own, and just unfortunately do find those drops, and that ultimately cost them their points. And South Korea now getting into their third pick where they get to choose LN3, and this is really not something you'd be hoping for if you're rooting for Indonesia.
Yeah, I think the one saving grace for Indonesia is the fact that this LN pool is significantly smaller than the rice pool, that South Korea would start to have to dive into the hybrids, and it does extend a tiny bit of an olive branch back the way of Indonesia, where they can maybe show off some of their rice physicality and basically kind of tank their way through some of those LN structures to hang on and make them a little bit tighter. But there's still plenty of match left to go. South Korea's not done just yet, and Indonesia might still have something to say about this, as LN3 was the pick here for South Korea.
Yeah, LN3 being chosen, and this is South Korea's Protect. So this is a map you would like to hope they have some really good scores on, if we haven't already seen good scores already. So Indonesia are going to need to put up a really good fight if they want to take their breakpoint on this map. Though saying that, you said earlier about the LN pool being much smaller than the rice pool, and that is correct. And Indonesia, once the LN pool is drained, may be able to take their points on the hybrids, obviously less LN heavy as the LN maps themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And the interesting thing that I've been noticing so far this match, South Korea has been able to take a lot of these LN points, and most of these rice points without Poca making an appearance so far. The fact that Gaesol, YZ, and Vanilla Latte have been able to hold down the fort has really shown the level of depth that South Korea has in these late game map pools. And going forward, if they do manage to take the last couple of points in this match against the United States, it's going to be very interesting to see how the team dynamics develop and how the strategy changes for that potential final match. But that's a conversation for a lot later. We still have this one to go through. Indonesia still not out of it yet, but looking to try and get their first point. See if they can maybe do it on LN3 here. Maybe pull the rug out from the South Koreans as we get underway.
Yeah, and as most of these maps go, this map is only sitting at 1 minute 51 seconds, so yeah, again, is on the shorter side of things, and it just really comes down to which team can hold combo the longest, it seems like. But South Korea will have that early advantage on the back of Albert's drop there towards the start, but it's really too early to call anything at the moment, and Indonesia are slowly climbing back from it. The lead is very, very small at this point in time.
Yeah, for sure, that early drop. The good thing is that recovering back up over that 400 combo cap is very quick on a chart like this, just littered with this high intensity LN structure all over the place. A couple of bursts and that catches out Vanilla Latte and is going to start to shrink the lead over the way of the Indonesians. All three of their combos basically built up once again, and the accuracy is now very catchable here for the Indonesians as Vanilla Latte makes that recovery run. No trades back as we make our way into the back half of the chart now.
Yeah, it's only 2,000 point lead and over halfway through the chart, as you said, and this lead is very small. If Indonesia can hold combo for what they can and just try to climb that accuracy a little bit, if South Korea even find a single drop, Indonesia can take their first breakpoint, but Nisha is the first one to find that drop and will give a bit of the score over to South Korea. 3/4 of the way through the map, YZ finds the trade and it can go back at any moment. The score lead is so small, it's now in Indonesia's favor ever so slightly. The bad HD player finds that miss in return, and South Korea just need to hold if they want to take this point. It's so very close.
It's probably a lot closer than they were expecting. Sure, they have a 5,000 point lead, but that can vanish in an instant in these last couple of structures. But as the map comes to an end, things calm down significantly. And South Korea looked a little bit dicey there on the protect, but doing just enough to hold off the Indonesians to make it 5-0.
That was a very, very close point, and just judging by the miscounts as well, that really could have been anyone's game there, and the 200 count from all players have been miraculous, and Gaesol and Nisha with the very low 200 count, and Gaesol with the and bad HD player with the very impressive ratios as well, but that really could have been anyone's game. It was flicking back and forward throughout that entire map just until the very end, and Indonesia now going into their own Protect Race 3.
We're going to go on to shine here before too long, and this is probably Indonesia's best bet to get something on the board. It's a very long chart, gonna be a bit of a test of stamina for the players, but as we mentioned before, Indonesia has stamina to burn on a chart like this, and it's really just going to come down to keeping that miscount as low as humanly possible, because we have seen it before in the past where this map can, or maps like this can get decided by a singular drop somewhere in the middle of the chart, and it's just unrecoverable from there.
Yeah, that's usually how it can go for these longer sided maps, and this one is the longest in the build, but you know, quite long at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and yeah, misses, as we've seen throughout this entire match so far, it has been down to these misses, and a single miss can really throw you off track and you can lose a lot of accuracy, and that's usually where it costs you at least a couple thousand points, and consistency will be the deciding factor for this match, which I'm hoping to see a lot more of in this map specifically.
Yeah, for sure. And we see Vanilla Latte actually checking back in for Yeonho, maybe giving them a little bit of a break. Don't want them wearing themselves out too much, if at all possible. And I think they've shown, actually, as I say that, Vanilla Latte departs and Yeonho comes back in. So maybe some last second deliberation, seeing who is actually going to stay up for this chart. And Indonesia staying firm. Bad HD player Nisha Labyrinth and Albert going to stick this through probably to the end. I wonder if maybe if that last LN pick gets chosen for South Korea, we will see onto Bikasi, but that's a conversation for another day. We're going to get into the 6th map of this best of 13. South Korea firmly in control right now, 5 up on the Indonesians. Indonesia looking to try and find a way into this match.
Indonesia are really going to need to take this point if they want a chance to get back in this, and if South Korea do manage to take this point away from them, that'll be a 6-0 advantage to South Korea, and they still have that last LN pick. So Indonesia really need to try to put up a good fight in this one, and the early lead does go towards South Korea only by 1,000 points. It's just on the accuracy. No misses have been dropped yet, and Indonesia are looking quite comfortable trying to take that back, seem to be a bit more confident on the accuracy side of things, but this is 3 minutes long and misses are bound to happen. I'm sure we will find some eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I think the bulk of that lead came off the back of Nisha finding a couple of stray 200s through those opening bursts before diving into what is basically the bulk of this chart, just 273 BPM jump stream for extended periods of time. And as I said, Nisha actually finding the first drop here for Indonesia, not traded back by any of the South Koreans so far, but it is only 3,000 points in their favor, can easily swing back as we make our way into the second quarter of the chart now.
It's not a lot of points to give to South Korea. It's really a small lead, and any miss from South Korea can return it. But Nisha does find yet another miss at the slower section. Probably not the best of places to find that miss, so that lead now is 7,000 points in South Korea's favor. Almost halfway through the map as well, and Indonesia really need to try hold strong for the rest of the map if they want to take this point. But South Korea looking very comfortable, sitting at almost all three of them at 99.7%, all FCing as far as I'm aware, and just looking too comfortable for them to even have any drops this time.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe as the chart goes on, they'll slip a couple hundredths of a percent in terms of their overall accuracy as that 300 count starts to accumulate. But Bad HD player going to find the next drop, and that was the highest accuracy for Indonesia, finding the miss. That is going to hurt a lot more in comparison to Nisha's drops as South Korea starts to grow this lead to about 12,000 points into the next break here. Still a third of the chart left to go. It's still anybody's game, but the hill can quickly become a mountain to climb if you're not too careful, and it's going to be up to Indonesia to really shore things up in this last quarter.
So far through the map, and there's only a quarter left. South Korea will need to hold their combos if they want to take this point. They might be able to afford a miss or two, but Nisha finds that drop as well, and that's really not good for the Indonesian side here. Albert trying his best to maintain that score lead, but it's just not enough when you're at 14,000 point lead deficit, and really not long left of the map now. And South Korea are holding the triple FC, and there's really not much Indonesia can do at this point. South Korea, as long as they hold their combos, they will take this breakpoint away from Indonesia on their protect, but there's still a little bit of the map left to go. Misses can happen, but with a 20,000 point lead, it doesn't seem likely that it can go in Indonesia's favor.
Yeah, for sure. And South Korea seeing the protect come out from Indonesia and just taking it to them. A dominating performance on Rice 3 FCs to their names, only a couple of 200s scattered across their lineup, and they make it a match point situation 6-0 now, with Indonesia all to do now as they have to reverse sweep basically to take it to tiebreaker to see any chance of getting through this match.
Now, it's not impossible, but South Korea still does have their LN4 to pick, and this is really not a good pick if you're Indonesia here. It's just really tough if you want to be able to get back into this game and take a breakpoint on one of the LNs, which South Korea has been very dominant on. So it might be a very interesting one. Indonesia will need to really give it their all if they just want to stay in this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. It's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination, but so many things can go wrong so quickly if you're not too careful. This is going to have to be a run of a lifetime. Indonesia has already done it before, some incredible comebacks in this tournament, so do not count them out, but this is going to be probably the hardest test that they have had so far this entire tournament, and I think so far in their country's tournament lifetime.
I believe all players are ready. We'll be getting into the potentially last map, or Indonesia can take it and try carry on into the match. But leaving that aside, this map is 3 minutes long, the same length as the last map, LN4. So South Korea might be quite confident with this pick. Indonesia, as I said, will need to give it their all, and this might be a really, really tough one to take if you're Indonesia. Really need to put in the effort.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, on any given day, you could have a misread here, misinput there. So many things, so many variables that you can't account for once you actually get into it, that as we get into the 7th map of this best of 13, South Korea on the precipice of booking their ticket into that grand finals against the United States, the team that knocked them into the losers bracket in the first place. See if they can run it back against them. Indonesia looking to pull off one of the greatest reverse sweeps of all time. Gonna need to do it on probably one of the hardest charts in this pool by their own admission, LN4.
This actually might be winnable for Indonesia. I mean, judging by last round's results, where Indonesia did get C2 and South Korea got C3, which means that Indonesia did have the higher score overall, but last round is not this round. Different maps means different difficulties and so on, and South Korea, the very small score lead, but Indonesia can still take this point away from them. This is a very long map, so whoever can hold on the longest can ultimately take the point.
Yeah, and everybody taking a pretty significant amount of damage through that introduction. All these short LNs really taking a toll on the accuracy, but Bad HD player finding the first couple of misses in the lobby, going to help extend this lead for South Korea, making it about 11,000 points as we make our way into the second quarter of the chart. Now, YZ does eventually trade it back here, but the damage might already be done. Vanilla Latte and Gaisel holding down the fort once again for the South Koreans as Albert and Nisha Labyrinth try to put up a defense against them.
Pretty consistent 10,000 point lead for South Korea, and it really can go back the other way if South Korea find more misses. But Bad HD player and Nisha both finding misses. Indonesia not having any full combos left, and yet again South Korea, Gaisel and Vanilla Latte both full comboing this very tricky LN map. Though halfway through the map, anything can still happen, as we just see YZ does find a miss, but Nisha and Albert trade it back, and that's really going to be not in their favor. But yet South Korea will just they'll eat it up, an 18,000 point lead now, and this is just slowly going in their favor. These misses are really not something you'd like to see if you're Indonesia at all.
Yeah, for sure. And as we cross our way into the back half of the chart now, about a minute and a half left for these players to play through. Nisha picks up the first drop in this section, does grow this lead for South Korea as we see misses all across the board on the transition. A full combo reset on the side of South Korea. Bad HD player Nisha traded back. Albert actually hangs on to their combo, and it helps shrink this lead by about 4,000 points, 17,000 points to margin. A quarter of the map left to go. Indonesia are not out of this just yet. Vanilla Latte finds a break into the transition. Nisha trades it back here. Bad HD player falls as well. And that might be over before it began for the Indonesians. Last quarter of the chart left to go here. South Korea, a couple seconds away from punching their ticket, but actually a lot of breaks coming through here.
We're seeing a lot of misses from everyone in this lobby, but Albert is the only one holding strong so far and trying to keep the dream alive. And 22,000 point lead now for South Korea. It's still slowly going up in their favor, but as we've seen so many misses, that can still happen again. If South Korea do find those even more drops, then that can give it back to Indonesia, but Albert did find that drop, missing out on that combo. The lead is quite in South Korea's favor, but YZ and Vanilla Latte did find those misses. That's almost 10,000 point lead back, but there's not long left of this map, and it doesn't seem possible. And 20,000 point lead for South Korea. South Korea will take the match 7-0.
Indeed, and with that, South Korea punches their ticket into the grand finals against the United States, an opportunity to run it back on this grand finals map pool at the expense of Indonesia, who will be going home with the bronze medal in this year's edition of the 4Key Mania World Cup. Commiserations to them, but congratulations to South Korea. Top 2 confirmed, and an opportunity to defend their title in just a couple of hours' time. But that will do it for us and this match. There's still plenty more action to come this weekend. Eliminate, do you want to tell the people watching what's in store for them this weekend?
Yeah. Okay, so we have after that match, we now have South Korea versus USA. For the grand finals to decide first and second place, which I do not have the schedule in front of me, but that will be at some point tomorrow.
And then we also have a show match for the players in store. We have invited some of the top performers and some special guests to play this grand finals map pool for you all. And that will be taking place at 15 UTC in just a couple of hours. So starting to tide you guys over, a bit of a precursor for what is to come. Some of your favorite players coming back to show off what they are made of on one of the hardest map pools in this tournament's history. So definitely tune in for that. But Eliminate, do you have anything else left to say?
I just want to congratulate both teams there and put up a really good fight, and Dallas just thought the entire tournament as well. Both teams had some really good scores and highlights and lowlights, so I think both teams should be proud of themselves for making it this far.
Yeah, absolutely. So until then, stick around for plenty more Mania action to come, but until then, we'll catch you guys later.